Captain Lee Dong-woo stood on the bridge of the UNS Goliath and looked out at the vast darkness of space. The year was 2387, and humanity had been traveling between stars for more than 100 years, but they had never found other intelligent life. The Goliath was the biggest warship that humans had ever built, and it was 3 kilometers long with enough weapons to destroy entire fleets of enemy ships. The massive ship moved slowly through space near the edge of human territory. Lee Dong-woo had been the captain of this giant vessel for 5 years, and he knew every part of it like his own home. The ship had plasma cannons that could melt through the strongest armor and railguns that could fire metal bullets at incredible speeds. It also had kinetic bombardment systems that could drop massive chunks of metal on planets from orbit. Behind the captain stood his crew of the best officers in the human fleet. Commander Choi Min-seo was in charge of all the weapons systems, and she could destroy any target with perfect accuracy. Lieutenant Han Bo-ra controlled all communications and could talk to any human ship across dozens of light years. Dr. Kim Tae-ho was the chief scientist who studied alien life forms, even though they had never found any intelligent ones. The bridge was huge with dozens of computer screens showing information about everything around the ship. The walls were made of thick metal that could stop most weapons, and the floor was covered with soft material that would not slip during combat. Large windows showed the stars outside, but they were protected by energy shields that could stop laser beams. Lee Dong-woo walked over to the main computer screen where Lieutenant Han Bo-ra was working. She had short black hair and wore the blue uniform of the communications department. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls as she checked for any messages from other human ships or colonies. "Captain, we are getting some strange signals from the Kepler 442 system," she said without looking up from her work. "The energy readings are very different from anything we have seen before, and they seem to be artificial." The captain moved closer to look at the data on her screen. The numbers showed massive amounts of energy moving in patterns that could not be natural. Something in that star system was using technology that was more advanced than anything humans had ever seen. "How far away is that system?" asked Lee Dong-woo. "About 12 light hours from our current position," replied Han Bo-ra. "We could reach it in 6 hours if we use maximum speed." Lee Dong-woo thought about what to do. The Goliath was on a routine patrol mission to check on the outer colonies and make sure there were no pirates or other threats. But this was the first time they had found evidence of alien technology, and it could be the most important discovery in human history. "Set course for the Kepler 442 system," he ordered. "Use maximum speed, but keep all weapons ready in case we meet something hostile." Commander Choi Min-seo pressed several buttons on her control panel, and the ship's massive engines started to work harder. The Goliath began to move faster through space toward the mysterious signals. All around the ship, the crew prepared for whatever they might find. Dr. Kim Tae-ho came over to the captain with excitement in his eyes. He was a thin man with gray hair, who had spent his whole life hoping to find intelligent alien life. His job was to study any new forms of life they discovered and figure out how to communicate with them. "Captain, this could be the moment we have been waiting for," he said with his voice full of hope. "If there really are intelligent aliens in that system, we need to be very careful about how we approach them." "What do you suggest?" asked Lee Dong-woo. "We should try to contact them from a safe distance first," replied Kim Tae-ho. "Let them know that we come in peace and want to learn about their culture. We must not do anything that could be seen as threatening." The captain nodded, but he also knew that the Goliath was a warship first and an exploration vessel second. The massive guns and armor made it look very dangerous even when the crew had peaceful intentions. He hoped that any aliens they met would understand that humans were not looking for a fight. For 6 hours, the great ship moved through space toward the unknown. The crew worked at their stations and prepared all the equipment they would need for first contact with an alien species. The translation computers were loaded with every human language and mathematical system. The communication arrays were tuned to send and receive signals across all possible frequencies. When they finally reached the edge of the Kepler 442 system, Lee Dong-woo ordered the ship to stop. What they saw on their screens made everyone hold their breath in amazement. There were dozens of alien ships moving around the system in organized patterns, like they were following traffic rules in space. The alien vessels were very different from human ships. They were smaller and had smooth, curved surfaces instead of the angular metal shapes that humans preferred. They seemed to be made for beauty as much as function, with flowing lines that looked almost like art. Some were only a few hundred meters long, while the largest ones were maybe half the size of the Goliath. "My God," whispered Dr. Kim Tae-ho. "They are beautiful." But as soon as the alien ships detected the massive human Dreadnought, they all stopped what they were doing. The organized traffic patterns broke apart as the alien vessels quickly moved away from the Goliath. It was clear that they had never seen anything like the giant human warship before. Lieutenant Han Bo-ra worked quickly to analyze the alien communications. "Captain, they are sending emergency signals to each other," she reported. "The computer is trying to translate, but their language is completely different from anything in our database." "Can you tell what they are saying?" asked Lee Dong-woo. "The computer thinks they are warning each other about a threat," she replied. "They seem to be very afraid of us." Commander Choi Min-seo looked at her weapons systems display. "Captain, several of their ships are powering up what look like defensive weapons, but they are not targeting us yet. They seem more scared than angry." Lee Dong-woo felt a cold feeling in his stomach. This was not how he had imagined first contact would go. The aliens were supposed to be curious about meeting humans, not terrified of them. He realized that the massive size and obvious military design of the Goliath was sending the wrong message. "Send out a general broadcast on all frequencies," he ordered Han Bo-ra. "Tell them that we come in peace and want to communicate. Use the first contact protocols that Earth Command created." Han Bo-ra sent the message, but the alien ships continued to move away from the Goliath. More ships were arriving from deeper in the system, and they were forming what looked like a defensive formation. The humans had wanted to make friends, but instead they had created a crisis. Dr. Kim Tae-ho shook his head sadly. "Captain, I think our ship is too frightening for them to trust us. They have probably never seen a vessel built primarily for war. In their minds, we must look like invaders who have come to conquer their system." Lee Dong-woo knew that the scientist was right, but he also could not just leave. This was humanity's first contact with intelligent alien life, and it might be their only chance to join a larger galactic community. He had to find a way to make the aliens understand that humans were not their enemies. The great Dreadnought Goliath hung in space like a metal mountain bristling with weapons, while dozens of smaller alien ships watched it from a safe distance. The first meeting between humans and aliens had begun, but not in the way anyone had hoped. The alien ships stayed far away from the Goliath for 3 hours, while both sides tried to figure out how to communicate. Lieutenant Han Bo-ra worked with her team of communication specialists to decode the alien language, while Dr. Kim Tae-ho studied the behavior patterns of the alien vessels. The massive human Dreadnought remained perfectly still to show that it was not planning to attack. Finally, a single alien ship separated from the main group and slowly approached the Goliath. It was a beautiful vessel with silver skin that seemed to flow like water and no visible weapons anywhere on its hull. The ship was about 500 meters long, which made it look tiny compared to the 3-kilometer bulk of the human warship. "Captain, we are receiving a transmission from the approaching vessel," reported Han Bo-ra. "The computer has made some progress with their language, and I think I can understand basic concepts. Put it on the main screen," ordered Lee Dong-woo. Ta'imeng. Image that appeared showed a being unlike anything humans had ever seen. It looked somewhat like a dolphin, but it stood upright and had arms with delicate hands. Its skin was blue-green and seemed to be always wet. Large, dark eyes looked out from a face that could show emotions, even though it was so different from human features. "I am Catharavel of the Morden people," the alien said, through the computer translation system. "I speak for the Veltar Confederation in this region of space. We wish to know why you have brought such a massive war vessel to our peaceful system, Captain." Lee Dong-woo stepped forward so the alien could see him on their own screens. "I am Captain Lee Dong-woo of the United Earth ship Goliath. We come from a species called humans, and we are exploring space to find other intelligent life. We mean you no harm, and we hope we can become friends." Catharavel seemed to study the, captain for a long moment. "Your words speak of peace, but your ship speaks of war. Never in all our history have we seen a vessel built only for destruction. What kind of species creates such monsters to travel between stars? Dr. Kim Tae-ho moved closer to the captain. May I speak with them? He asked quietly. Lee Dong-woo nodded and stepped aside. Honored Catharavel, I am Dr. Kim Tae-ho, and I study different forms of life, the scientist said. Our ship may look frightening to you, but humans have learned to be prepared for danger. In our part of space, there are pirates and hostile groups that attack peaceful ships. We built the Goliath to protect our people and colonies. You speak of protection, but we see only threat, replied the alien diplomat. Our people have traveled the stars for thousands of years without building such weapons of destruction. We solve conflicts with words and trade not with violence and fear. Behind Catharavel, other aliens appeared on the screen. Lee Dong-woo could see that they belonged to different species within this Veltar confederation. One looked like a large insect with multiple arms, while another seemed to be made of living crystal that glowed with internal light. All of them stared at the human captain with what looked like fear and suspicion. Commander Choi Min-seo quietly checked her weapon systems to make sure they were ready in case the situation became dangerous. She had been a military officer for 20 years, and she knew that fear could make people do stupid things. The alien ships might decide to attack the Goliath, even though they could not win such a battle. Perhaps we could arrange a meeting on neutral ground, suggested Dr. Kim Tae-ho. We could meet on one of the planets in this system with just a few people from each side. That way you would not have to worry about our ship. Catharavel discussed this idea with the other aliens on the screen. They spoke in their own language, which the computer could not yet translate properly. Lee Dong-woo could tell from their gestures and tone that they were arguing about what to do. We will consider your proposal, Catharavel finally said. But first we must ask you to move your war vessel to the edge of our system. Its presence here makes peaceful discussion impossible. Captain Lee Dong-woo felt frustrated, but he understood the alien position. The Goliath did look very threatening with its massive size and obvious military design, but he also had orders from Earth Command to maintain a strong position during any first contact situation. Showing weakness might invite attack from hostile aliens later. I am sorry, but I cannot move my ship that far away, he replied. However, I can move it to the outer part of this star system where it will not interfere with your normal activities. Would that be acceptable? The aliens on the screen talked among themselves again. This time their discussion seemed more heated, and Lee Dong-woo could see that they were not happy with his answer. Finally, Catharavel turned back to face the camera. We do not understand why you insist on keeping your weapon so close to our worlds, the alien said. If you truly come in peace, then you should be willing to show trust by removing the threat. Before Captain Lee Dong-woo could answer, Commander Choi Min-seo accidentally triggered a routine diagnostic of the weapons systems. For just a few seconds, the massive guns of the Goliath powered up and targeted the nearest asteroid for a test scan. The weapons powered down immediately, but the damage was done. Every alien ship in the system immediately activated their defensive systems and began moving into combat formations. Red warning lights flashed on alien vessels while emergency messages flooded the communication channels. Catharavel disappeared from the screen as alarms sounded on the alien ship. Captain, that was just a routine system check, Choi Min-seo said, quickly. All weapons are powered down and we are not targeting anything, but Lieutenant Han Bo-ra was already translating the alien emergency broadcasts. Captain, they think we were preparing to attack them. They are calling for military reinforcements from other systems in their confederation. Lee Dong-woo realized that the situation was getting out of control very quickly. What had started as a peaceful first contact was turning into a potential battle that nobody wanted. The aliens were too frightened to trust anything the humans said, while the humans looked more threatening with every action they took. Send another message to Catharavel, he ordered. Tell them that what they saw was just a routine equipment test, and that we have no intention of using our weapons. Han Bo-ra tried to contact the alien ship but received no response. The beautiful vessel that had approached them was now moving away at high speed to rejoin the alien fleet. More ships were arriving from deeper in the system, and some of them looked like they might be military vessels. Dr. Kim Tae-ho studied the alien fleet through the ship's sensors. Captain, I think we have made a serious mistake. These aliens have clearly developed a peaceful approach to space travel, while we have developed a military one. To them, our ship must look like the most dangerous thing they have ever encountered. But we are not dangerous to them if they leave us alone, protested Commander Choi Min-seo. The Goliath is a defensive weapon designed to protect human territory. They do not know that, replied the scientist. All they can see is a massive warship that could destroy their entire fleet. From their point of view, we might be planning to conquer their whole confederation. Captain Lee Dong-woo walked over to the main display screen and studied the tactical situation. The alien fleet now numbered more than 50 ships, and they were maintaining a defensive formation around their worlds. The humans were outnumbered, but the Goliath was much more powerful than any individual alien vessel. Captain, we are receiving a new transmission, reported Han Bo-ra. It is coming from a different alien ship, and the speaker identifies himself as Tribune Zilhot of the Veltar Defense Fleet. A new alien appeared on the screen. This one looked like the insect being they had seen earlier with multiple arms and large compound eyes. Its voice sounded angry even through the computer translation. Human warship, you have violated our space with threats and hostile actions. We give you one warning to leave our territory immediately, or we will consider you an invasion force. You have 1 hour to begin moving away from our worlds. The transmission ended before Captain Lee Dong-woo could reply. He looked around at his officers and saw worry in their faces. Humanity's first contact with intelligent aliens was becoming a disaster, and he did not know how to fix it. The great Dreadnought Goliath hung in space surrounded by dozens of smaller alien ships while both sides prepared for a conflict that nobody really wanted but seemed impossible to avoid. News about the massive human warship spread across alien space networks faster than anyone could have imagined. Within hours of the first contact, every major civilization in the sector had heard about the species that built ships like floating cities covered in weapons. The Veltar Confederation sent emergency messages to their allies, describing the terrifying vessel that had appeared at their borders. Captain Lee Dong-woo sat in his private quarters reading reports from Earth Command about the situation. Admiral Park Soo-jin had sent new orders telling him to maintain his position and show human strength during negotiations. The politicians back on Earth thought that displaying military power would make aliens respect humanity more, but they did not understand how their weapons were being perceived. Dr. Kim Tae-ho knocked on the captain's door and entered when given permission. The scientist looked tired after working for many hours to analyze alien communications and behavior patterns. He carried a data pad with information that made him look very worried. Captain, I have been monitoring alien transmissions throughout this region of space, and the situation is much worse than we thought, he said as he sat down across from Lee Dong-woo. The aliens are not just afraid of us, they are terrified. They think we are a species that lives only for war and conquest. What exactly are they saying about us? Asked the captain. Kim Tae-ho activated his datapad and showed the captain translated alien messages. They are calling our ships devourers of stars and metal demons, and they say we are the first species they have ever met that builds weapons instead of explorers. Some of them think we are planning to invade and destroy every peaceful civilization in the galaxy. Lee Dong-woo felt sick as he read the translated messages. The aliens were describing humans as monsters who traveled between stars only to bring death and destruction. They talked about the Goliath like it was a nightmare come to life instead of a ship built to protect human colonies from pirates and hostile forces. There is more bad news, continued the scientist. 3 other alien civilizations have joined with the Veltar Confederation to form a defense alliance against us. The Korth Empire, the Silicon Communes, and something called the Wandering Fleets are all sending military ships to this system. How many ships are we talking about? Asked Lee Dong-woo. Our sensors show more than 200 alien vessels approaching from different directions, replied Kim Tae-ho. They will all arrive within the next 12 hours, and then we will be facing the largest alien fleet in recorded history. The captain stood up and walked over to the window in his quarters. Outside, he could see the stars and the distant lights of alien ships that were keeping watch on the Goliath. He had wanted to make friends with the first aliens humans ever met, but instead, he had created the biggest crisis in human history. A message came through the ship's communication system asking the captain to come to the bridge immediately. When he arrived, he found his officers gathered around the main display screen, looking at something that made them all appear very concerned. Captain, we are receiving a transmission from Earth, reported Lieutenant Han Bo-ra. It is Ambassador Lim Yoon-young, and she is coming here on the diplomatic ship Olive Branch to try to restart negotiations with the aliens. The screen showed a middle-aged woman with short gray hair, wearing the formal uniform of the Earth Diplomatic Corps. She had a serious expression that showed she understood how dangerous the situation had become. Captain Lee, I am arriving in your system within 6 hours, with full authority from the Earth government to conduct peace talks with these aliens, she said. I need you to prepare detailed reports about everything that has happened and all information about alien capabilities and intentions. At least someone from Earth understands that we need diplomacy instead of just military power, said Dr. Kim Tae-ho quietly. But Commander Choi Min-seo looked skeptical. Captain, even if the ambassador can restart talks, the aliens are still going to see the Goliath as a threat. We cannot just make a ship this size disappear. Lieutenant Han Bo-ra suddenly looked up from her communication station with alarm in her eyes. Captain, I am detecting new alien transmissions, and the computer translation suggests they are planning some kind of coordinated action against us. What kind of action? Asked Lee Dong-woo. They seem to be discussing whether to attack us before more human ships arrive, she replied. Some of them think the Goliath is just the first ship in a large invasion fleet. The captain felt the situation spinning further out of control. The aliens were so afraid of human military power that they were considering a preemptive strike against the Goliath. A battle in this system would destroy any chance of peaceful relations between humans and the galactic community. Chief Engineer Bae Hyun-woo came onto the bridge carrying a report about the ship's status. He was a stocky man with thick arms who took great pride in maintaining the Goliath's powerful systems. He had served on warships for 15 years, and believed that superior technology was the key to survival in a dangerous universe. Captain, all systems are operating at peak efficiency, and we are ready for any situation, he reported. Our weapons can destroy any ship in that alien fleet, and our armor can protect us from their primitive weapons. If they want to fight, they will learn why humans are the dominant military power in this region. Dr. Kim Tae-ho shook his head sadly. Engineer Bae, that kind of thinking is exactly what got us into this mess. The aliens do not want to fight us. They want us to leave them alone. They have never met a species that solves problems with violence instead of cooperation. Then maybe it is time they learned that the galaxy is not as safe as they think, replied Bae Hyun-woo. There are dangerous things out there, and someone needs to be strong enough to fight them. Captain Lee Dong-woo listened to his officers argue while he tried to find a solution that would save both human and alien lives. He understood both points of view, but he also knew that the wrong decision could lead to a war that would spread across the entire galaxy. The diplomatic ship Olive Branch arrived exactly on schedule and requested permission to dock with the Goliath. Ambassador Lim Yoon-young came aboard with a small team of negotiation specialists and immediately asked for a meeting with the captain and his senior officers. The ambassador was an experienced diplomat who had solved many difficult problems during her career, but she had never faced anything like the current crisis. She listened carefully as Captain Lee Dong-woo explained everything that had happened since first contact with the aliens. The fundamental problem is that we approached them with a warship, she said after hearing all the details. In their minds, we announced ourselves as a violent species that cannot be trusted. Now they are so afraid that they cannot think clearly about our actual intentions. What do you suggest we do? Asked Lee Dong-woo. I propose that the Goliath withdraw to the edge of this star system while I conduct negotiations from my much smaller and less threatening ship, replied the ambassador. Perhaps if they do not have to look at your massive weapons, they might be willing to listen to reason. Commander Choi Min-seo immediately objected to this plan. Ambassador, if we move away from the aliens, they might think we are weak and decide to attack us when we are not ready. The Goliath needs to stay close enough to protect your ship during negotiations. But if we stay too close, they will never agree to talk, argued Dr. Kim Tae-ho. We are trapped between looking weak and looking threatening. Ambassador Lim Yoon-young studied the tactical display showing the positions of all the ships in the system. The alien fleet had grown to more than 300 vessels as more reinforcements arrived from distant systems. The single human Dreadnought was vastly outnumbered but probably more powerful than all the alien ships combined. I will try to contact the alien leaders and arrange a meeting, she decided. Perhaps if I speak to them from my own ship, they will be more willing to listen. Captain Lee, I need you to keep the Goliath ready for action but do not make any moves that could be seen as aggressive." The ambassador returned to her ship and began sending messages to the alien fleet. For several hours there was no response, as the aliens debated whether to trust the human diplomat. Finally, Cathara Vel agreed to speak with Ambassador Lim Yun-young, but only after the massive warship moved further away from alien worlds. Captain Lee Dong-woo faced the hardest decision of his career. He could follow the ambassador's advice and move the Goliath to a safer distance, which might allow negotiations to succeed. But he could also be putting the diplomatic ship at risk if the aliens decided to attack when the Dreadnought was too far away to help. The great warship hung in space like a metal mountain while hundreds of smaller alien vessels watched and waited to see what the terrifying humans would do next. Captain Lee Dong-woo made the difficult decision to move the Goliath to the outer edge of the star system, while Ambassador Lim Yun-young attempted to restart negotiations with the alien confederation. The massive Dreadnought slowly moved away from the alien worlds, but kept its sensors focused on the diplomatic ship Olive Branch in case the aliens tried anything hostile. For 2 days, the ambassador worked to convince the alien leaders that humans were not planning to invade their territory. She met with representatives from multiple species, including Cathara Vel and other diplomatic officials from the Veltar Confederation. The talks were difficult because the aliens could not forget the terrifying image of the giant human warship bristling with weapons. Dr. Kim Tae-ho spent his time studying the alien communications and learned that their fear of humans was spreading to civilizations that had never even seen the Goliath. Stories about the massive human warship were being told across the galaxy and getting more frightening with each retelling. Some aliens now believed that humans had fleets of ships even bigger than the Goliath, ready to destroy entire star systems. The situation became much worse when long-range sensors detected another massive human ship approaching the system. The UNS Hammer of Sol was a sister ship to the Goliath with exactly the same size and firepower. Captain Seo Jin-ae had been ordered by Earth Command to reinforce the First Contact mission and show alien civilizations that humanity was serious about protecting its interests. "Captain, we are receiving a priority transmission from the approaching vessel," reported Lieutenant Han Bo-ra. "Captain Seo Jin-ae is requesting permission to take position alongside the Goliath." Lee Dong-woo felt his heart sink as he realized that the arrival of a second Dreadnought would destroy any progress that Ambassador Lim Yun-young had made with the aliens. The sight of 2 massive human warships would convince the aliens that an invasion fleet was gathering at their borders. "Send a message to Captain Seo telling her to maintain position at the edge of the system and not to approach the alien fleet," he ordered. "Tell her that we are in the middle of delicate negotiations, and her ship might be seen as a threat, but it was too late to prevent the damage." Alien sensors had already detected the approaching human Dreadnought, and emergency messages were flooding their communication networks. The carefully planned diplomatic meetings were canceled as alien military commanders took control of the situation from the civilian negotiators. Tribune Zilhot appeared on the communication screen looking even more angry than before. The insect-like alien's compound eyes seemed to glow with fury as it spoke through the computer translation system. "Humans, you have lied to us about your peaceful intentions," it said in a voice full of rage. "While your diplomat spoke of friendship, you were bringing another war vessel to threaten our worlds. This proves that you plan to conquer our confederation, and we will not allow it." Ambassador Lim Yun-young tried desperately to explain that the second ship had been sent without her knowledge and that humans still wanted peace. But the alien leaders would not listen to her words anymore. They had seen 2 human dreadnoughts and decided that diplomacy was just a trick to give humanity time to gather more warships. Captain Lee Dong-woo watched helplessly as the alien fleet reorganized itself into a massive battle formation. Ships from 4 different civilizations were working together to face what they believed was an invasion force. The beautiful curved vessels of the Veltar Confederation joined with the angular warships of the Korth Empire and the crystalline constructs of the Silicon Communes. Admiral Ro Kyung-soo contacted both human ships from Earth Command headquarters with new orders that made the crisis even worse. The Admiral was a military officer who believed that showing strength was the only way to gain respect from alien civilizations. "Captains Lee and Seo, you are ordered to maintain a strong defensive position and demonstrate human military superiority," his message said. Do not allow the aliens to think that humanity can be intimidated by superior numbers. Show them that human ships are the most powerful vessels in the galaxy. Dr. Kim Tae-ho shook his head in despair as he heard these orders. Captain, those instructions will guarantee a war that nobody wants. The aliens are already terrified of us, and now Earth Command wants us to act even more threatening. Commander Choi Min-seo looked at her weapons display and saw that both human Dreadnoughts could probably destroy the entire alien fleet if they worked together. But she also knew that winning a battle would mean losing any chance of joining the galactic community. Captain, if we follow Admiral Rowe's orders, we will have to fight, she said quietly. The aliens will not back down if we show more aggression, and we cannot afford to look weak in front of so many potential enemies. The Alien Confederation issued an ultimatum that reached both human ships simultaneously. Elder Morthak of the Veltar. Council appeared on screen as an ancient being who had lived for hundreds of years and remembered many wars between different species. Human ships, you have brought instruments of destruction to our peaceful region of space, the elderly alien said in a voice that sounded tired and sad. We have tried to find a diplomatic solution, but you continue to gather military forces at our borders. We give you 72 hours to remove all warships from our territory, or we will consider you an invasion force and act accordingly. Captain Lee Dong-woo knew that the aliens were not bluffing about their deadline. They had assembled the largest fleet in their recorded history and were prepared to fight, even though they knew it would cost many lives. The fear of human military power had made them desperate enough to risk everything. Ambassador Lim Yun-young made one final attempt to restart negotiations, but the alien leaders refused to meet with her while human dreadnoughts remained in their space. She sent a message to both captains explaining that diplomacy had completely failed. Captains, the aliens will not negotiate while our warships are present, but Earth Command will not allow us to withdraw, her transmission said. We are trapped in a situation where any action we take will be seen as either threatening or weak. I fear that we are going to witness the first war between humans and aliens. Captain Seo Jin-ae contacted Captain Lee Dong-woo on a secure channel to discuss their options. She was a veteran officer who had commanded warships for many years and understood the terrible position they were in. Captain Lee, we cannot win this situation with military force even if we destroy their entire fleet, she said during their private conversation. If we fire the first shot, we will be known throughout the galaxy as the species that chose war over peace during first contact. But if we withdraw without permission from Earth Command, we will be court-martialed for cowardice, replied Lee Dong-woo. Our careers will be over, and humanity might lose respect among alien civilizations. Both captains realized that they were facing an impossible choice between their duty to Earth Command and their responsibility to prevent a galactic war. The alien deadline was approaching, and neither side seemed willing to back down from their positions. Dr. Kim Tae-ho worked frantically with his research team to find some way to demonstrate human peaceful intentions without appearing weak. They studied alien psychology and culture, looking for any solution that might prevent the coming battle. Captain, I think I understand why this situation became so bad so quickly, the scientist said as he brought his findings to Lee Dong-woo. Most alien species developed spaceflight through cooperation and shared resources, while humans developed it through competition and military necessity. We literally think about space travel in completely different ways. What does that mean for our current situation? Asked the captain. It means that every action we take is being interpreted through their peaceful worldview, while every action they take is being interpreted through our military worldview, replied Kim Tae-ho. Neither side can understand what the other is really trying to do. Lieutenant Colonel Jang Woo-jin came to the bridge to report that his Special Forces troops were ready for any combat situation. He was a tough soldier who had fought pirates and hostile groups throughout human space, but he had never faced an enemy with such advanced technology. Captain, my teams can handle boarding actions or ground combat, but I do not think we should underestimate these aliens, he reported. Their ships may look peaceful, but they have had thousands of years to develop their technology, while humans have only been in space for 1 century. With less than 24 hours remaining before the alien deadline, both human dreadnoughts prepared for a battle that would change the history of the galaxy. The massive warships powered up their weapons systems and activated their strongest defensive shields, while hundreds of alien vessels did the same. Captain Lee Dong-woo stood on the bridge of the Goliath and wondered if he was about to become the man who started the first interstellar war. The two human ships were vastly outnumbered, but their superior firepower might allow them to win a battle that would destroy any hope of peaceful relations with alien civilizations. With only 6 hours left before the alien deadline expired, Captain Lee Dong-woo prepared to make the most difficult decision of his life. Both human dreadnoughts had their weapons powered up and ready to fight, while hundreds of alien ships waited in defensive formations around their worlds. The galaxy was about to witness its first interstellar war, and everyone knew that no matter who won the battle, peace between species would be lost forever. President Kang So-young contacted both ship captains directly from Earth with final orders. That would determine the fate of humanity's place in the galaxy. She was a wise leader who understood that military victory might mean political disaster for the human species. Captains Lee and Seo, you are authorized to use your own judgment about whether to fight or withdraw, her message said. The Earth government realizes that you face an impossible situation, and we trust you to make the right decision for all humanity. Whatever you choose to do, we will support your actions. Captain Lee Dong-woo felt the weight of responsibility as he realized that the future of human civilization might depend on what he did in the next few hours. He could order an attack that would destroy the alien fleet and show the galaxy that humans were too dangerous to threaten. Or he could withdraw and hope that other alien species would see this as wisdom rather than weakness. Dr. Kim Tae-ho came to the bridge with urgent news from his research team. The scientist looked exhausted after working for days without sleep, but his eyes showed excitement about something important he had discovered. Captain, I have been analyzing long-range sensor data, and I found something that changes everything, he said as he activated the main display screen. There are massive energy signatures approaching this region of space from outside the galaxy, and they do not match any known technology. The screen showed sensor readings from the edge of known space where something huge was moving through the darkness between galaxies. The energy patterns were unlike anything in the databases of human or alien civilizations, and they were heading toward inhabited star systems. What exactly are we looking at? Asked Captain Lee Dong-woo. I believe we are seeing the approach of an extragalactic invasion force that has been dormant for thousands of years, replied Kim Tae-ho. The computer analysis suggests that these entities have technology far more advanced than anything humans or aliens have developed. Lieutenant Han Bo-ra suddenly looked up from her communication station with amazement in her voice. Captain, I'm receiving a transmission unlike anything we have ever detected before. It seems to be coming from everywhere in space at once. The main screen filled with an image that defied human understanding. It showed what looked like a vast cloud of stars and energy that somehow had intelligence and consciousness. When it spoke, the voice seemed to come from inside everyone's mind, rather than through the communication system. I am the voice of many, and I have watched the rise and fall of civilizations for millions of years, the entity said. I speak to you now, because this galaxy faces a threat that none of your species can handle alone. Captain Seo Jin-a contacted the Goliath on a secure channel. Captain Lee, are you seeing this transmission as well? She asked. My science officers think we are talking to some kind of collective consciousness that spans multiple star systems. We are all seeing the same thing, replied Lee Dong-woo. Let us listen to what this being has to say. The voice of many continued its message to both humans and aliens. The entities approaching from dark space are called the Harvesters, and they consume entire civilizations to fuel their expansion across the universe. They have been dormant in the void between galaxies, but your conflicts have awakened them with electromagnetic signals from your weapons and communications. Elder Morthak appeared on a secondary screen representing the Alien Confederation. The ancient being looked confused and frightened by this new development. Voice of many, we have never heard of these harvesters in all our recorded history. How do you know about them? I am old beyond your ability to understand, and I have seen the harvesters destroy 3 other galaxies, replied the entity. They are drawn to regions of space where intelligent species fight wars because conflict creates the energy patterns they use to navigate. Your current crisis has sent a signal across the cosmos that will guide them directly to this galaxy. Dr. Kim Tae-ho studied the sensor data more carefully, and made a discovery that changed everything. Captain, the approaching entities are not just more advanced than us, they are thousands of times more powerful. Our weapons would be completely useless against their technology. Commander Choi Min-seo looked at her tactical displays and realized that all the military preparations for fighting aliens were meaningless against this new threat. Captain, if these harvesters are as powerful as the voice of many claims, then humans and aliens will need to work together just to survive. The voice of many seemed to read their thoughts. You begin to understand the truth. Humanity developed powerful warships because your species evolved on a dangerous world where only the strong survived. The alien confederations developed peaceful exploration vessels because they evolved in safer environments where cooperation was more important than conflict. Ambassador Lim Yun-young sent an urgent message to both dreadnoughts from her diplomatic ship. Captains, this changes everything about our first contact situation. If the galaxy faces an external threat, then humans and aliens need each other more than ever before. Fleet Admiral Oh Min-ho contacted all human ships with new orders from Earth Command. All vessels are ordered to offer immediate assistance to alien civilizations in preparing defenses against the approaching threat. First contact protocols are suspended, and you are authorized to share human military technology with any species willing to cooperate. Captain Lee Dong-woo opened a communication channel to the entire alien fleet. This is Captain Lee Dong-woo of the human dreadnought Goliath. I propose that we end our conflict immediately and work together to defend this galaxy from the harvesters. Our species may be different, but we all want to survive. Tribune Zilhot appeared on screen looking uncertain about this sudden change in the situation. Human Captain, how do we know this is not some trick to make us lower our defenses while you attack our worlds? The voice of many answered before Captain Lee Dong-woo could respond. The harvesters will arrive in this region of space within 30 solar cycles. If the species of this galaxy do not unite to fight them, then all of your civilizations will be consumed and converted into fuel for their expansion to other galaxies. Cathara Vel joined the communication from the alien flagship. Captain Lee, if what this entity says is true, then we have wasted precious time fighting each other instead of preparing for the real enemy. Can your human warships actually defend against such a powerful threat? Our ships alone cannot stop the harvesters, admitted Lee Dong-woo. But human military technology combined with alien science and cooperation might give us a chance to survive. We need to share everything we know about warfare and defense. Captain Yu Hwan-seok contacted the other ships from his science vessel UNS Discovery, which had just arrived in the system. Captains, I have been analyzing the sensor data about the harvesters, and I believe we can create effective defenses if we combine human weapons with alien shield technology and navigation systems. The alien leaders held an emergency meeting to discuss this unexpected development. After hours of debate, they agreed to form a temporary alliance with humanity to face the approaching threat. The ships that had been preparing to fight each other began working together to plan the defense of the galaxy. Dr. Kim Tae-ho worked with alien scientists to understand the technology of the harvesters and develop countermeasures. Captain, we are learning that the aliens have defensive systems that are much more advanced than ours, while we have offensive weapons that are much more powerful than theirs. Together, we might be able to create ships that can actually fight these invaders. Captain Lee Dong-woo realized that humanity's reputation as monsters might actually save the galaxy. The massive human dreadnoughts that had terrified alien civilizations were exactly the kind of weapons needed to fight an enemy that could not be reasoned with or negotiated against. Attention all ships, he broadcast to the combined human and alien fleet. The harvesters are coming whether we are ready or not. Humans will provide the weapons and aliens will provide the shields and navigation. We will build a defense force that can protect every peaceful species in this galaxy. The voice of many gave its approval to this alliance. You have chosen the path of cooperation over conflict, and this gives your galaxy a chance to survive. The harvesters expect to find civilizations that fight among themselves, but instead they will face united species, working as one, Captain Seo. Ginny moved her dreadnought into formation alongside alien vessels as the combined fleet began preparing for the greatest battle in galactic history. Captain Lee, we came here looking for friends, and instead, We found our purpose. Humanity was meant to be the guardians of the galaxy. The great warships Goliath and Hammer of Sol took their positions at the front of a fleet that included hundreds of vessels from dozens of different species. The humans who had been feared as monsters were now welcomed as protectors against an enemy that threatened every form of life in the galaxy.